I'm installing a vintage air kit in my 56 Chevy, and I opted for the improvement for the chrome louvers. So I just finished installing those in the dashboard. You can see this one behind me, and it's a bit of a process. If you're interested in seeing how this gets done, stay tuned. The vintage air kit comes with this plastic bezel setup that goes underneath the dash, and I just didn't like the way that this looks like it's an afterthought. It doesn't look factory original, so I decided to go ahead and splurge, and I bought the vintage air, the optional dash louver that has a chrome bezel. So this is a much nicer setup. This is very heavyweight metal, and this is designed to go on the dash in the corner. It comes with the outside frame and then the insert that goes inside of it here. So I don't want to put them in until I get them on, but this has got the little ball turret sort of a vent, and there's two of them, the left and the right, passenger driver side. So these need to be drilled into the dash. There needs to be a hole that's drilled, and they give you a template. And so this is the template right here. 55, 56 Chevy passenger side louver template. So they give you this, cut it along a dotted line here, and then you have to go in, find that center point, and go in, and that's a really curvy surface. So even though we're going to drill it with a hole saw, it's not a flat plane that we're going into. So you can drill into metal with a saw as long as it's a bimetal saw, and that's what this is. This is designed to go through metal. So this is a 2 3/4 inch hole saw, 70 millimeter. I got this from Lowe's, and I have a number of these, but I just didn't have a 2 3/4. So the 2 3/4 is the size that they want for that, and then they say to trim the rest. So I guess I'm going to use my die grinder for that. And the way these work, there's a mandrel. That's what this little part is called. So they're sold separately. You get the saw and the mandrel will fit every size of hole saw. If I can just get it started. There we go. And the mandrel has a drill bit that goes into it. But my drill bit, even though I know this is probably a relatively new bit, I just didn't want to trust it because I'm going into this beautiful dashboard. So I wanted to make sure I got a brand new bit. And it's a bit longer. So that'll give me a lot of reach to get into that curvy surface. So let's go take a look at that. All right, so this is where it's going to go, in here. And according to the diagram, they show it on the 55 and 56. You see that seam, and they show the OEM holes. So the OEM holes have got to be those two bolt holes for the emergency brake pull. And it looks like the seam, it looks like the louver goes over the seam to some degree. It's got to get away from the switch. So if you look at it, it's going to look like that on the driver's side. It's going to go right over that seam. So I don't know how that plays into it, because the hole, let's look at the template. There you go. Driver's 55, 56 driver's side. There's the holes. There's the seam. All right, but we got to go in here and let's see what the instructions say to do. It says use a template provided on pages 4 and 5. Align and tape the template to the dash. Using the OEM holes, mark or center punch the holes on dash. Drill a 5/32 and 2 3/4 hole. Note tolerances are tight. Make sure holes are precise. Install a louver bezel into the dash. Verify the louver bezel is square and to the dash. Use the lower mounting hole as a guide to mark and drill a 5/32 hole. Trim off excess material as shown in the template, and then install. So there's a template. Let me go ahead and cut this out. We'll go ahead and put it on here, and we'll see what we're looking like. Well, that's what the template looks like up there. I've got it on the holes down here. Got it taped in the bottom. Made sure that this line is right on that seam, and this line up here is on the seam. So that's where it wants to be. It's a little higher than where I was just playing with it, but that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like that. I guess it looks factory. So they're talking about it needing to be tight. So there's some room. You can see the dash line on the inside of there. So there is room, but that 5/32 hole is for that, because you got to get a screw in here, and they don't tell you about, well, that one. It looks like you got to put a screw in from the bottom. So I guess you'll do a sheet metal screw afterwards. So it gets held in from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and drill my pilot hole here. And I'm going to put a little mark here and see if I can't get that hole saw to cut that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some center punch holes. I'm going to scratch all, and that ought to do well enough. I got an oversized maul, so they want them to be precise. We're going to get precise. I'm going to go right on it. This one, and then center punch this one. I hit that so hard it might put a hole in it. And the second one. I know I did. Shoot, I might have dented it. Sure did. Dented it both times. Okay, well, this one doesn't matter. And that one, I guess it'll be underneath a thing. And if I need to bend that a little bit more this way, but at least now I know I got 2 dimples right where it's going to go. So let me go ahead and get the drill and we'll start drilling. Quick and simple. It's actually a stud, it's not a screw, it's a stud that goes in the back of that. So now I got my hole saw, bimetal with the brand new bit on it. And yeah, that's one of the problems with these things. That's what I didn't want to do. It corkscrewed its way right in. Yep. So I know it's believe me, I'm very nervous doing this. If you're nervous watching. That's it. Oh. Yep, I didn't gouge any wires or nothing, but wow! Ooh. I hope to tell you. So now I got to smooth that out. I got to gouge this down. And once we pull this back up and see where we're at. But now I've got to trim that out. So let me get that set up. There's the core. Right through the flange. Well, I'm dead on it. That's the hole right there for the stud. And I'm tracing right here, and I'm like right on it. So now I've got it realigned. Here's my hole. And I've got all of that cut and lined up, and now it's down here. It's just a little bit more. So it's pretty close. It's really close. It was already oblong as it was. Because with that curving away, you know, it was already kind of going in that direction. So now I need to get that off, and I'm going to trim that flange down a little bit. Boy, that's a sharp edge. I need to get my die grinder and just get that little bit off, and then it ought to be ready to attach. Let's see how much needs to go right there. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is the bezel, and you can see it's got a stud now that goes in the back, and there's a screw hole in the bottom. So they give you a screw and a nut that goes in from the bottom, but they didn't mark it on the template. So I'm going to insert this into that top hole, hold it up there, mark it, center punch it, drill that, and let me show you how the vent goes on. Well, vent, one thing I did notice is that they come unscrewed. So you can take this, the actual louver part, it's threaded, and you can put this behind the chrome bezel, and I'm guessing it's got enough of a lip to screw it in and mount it like that. I don't know if that's enough throat to get on that thick metal part, but I'm going to assume that that's what they meant to do. So the vent, the diameter is the same, almost the same diameter as the hose. So it looks like the hose just goes in, it just shoves in like this. And if you look on the inside, there's next to no room for that hose to clear anything other than that bezel. So it looks like it just bump stops against these little tabs on the inside. So I'm going to be able to pretty much put all this in, but I think I'm going to let this part stay out until I get the hose, and I'll be able to pull a hose forward, shove the hose in, and then shove all that in backwards, so that way I can make sure to reach it. All right, let's go ahead and slip it in. There's that. So now that that's on there, what I need to do is come up with the punch and mark this hole. And that. That's that. Put a hole right there, and we'll be able to get that other screw in. All right. So now the screw that they give you for the bottom is an Allen head. So I've got my trusty Allen set. Now I just need to get my hands back in there and get this screwed in. So I know I can get to them through the hole. Hopefully. All right, there it is. I had to bend the sheet metal down a little bit to get that nut on, but the other one is up behind here. You can see the stud. So I had to get the nut. I had to get way the heck out of the way extension in order to get to it, but I got it. Let me step back and look at it. It looks big in this photograph, but it's not. You know, that's gonna look really, really nice when it's done. So now we got to get the other side. Almost there. Alright, it's in. Looks good. Looks really good. Here's a vent. So the vent, when the vent goes into it, that is going to look nice. So that right there and over there, that's going to do that. Well, there you have it. This install is part of a bigger video that's going to be on the entirety of the Vintage Air install. But I'm going to release this just by itself, installing these two little vents. So do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're enjoying my channel, as always, I'd love a subscription. So until I see you next time, please take care of yourself. Cheers.